Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave and this video we're going to be talking about pedals. If you remember a little while ago I did a video about this. It's the Fizzy Cream from Sonicake. It's a fuzz pedal that I bought for use with my cigarbox guitar. And while I was making that video the idea hit me it could be fun to build a bit of it's like a lo-fi, down and dirty, just completely affordable pedal board to use with a cigarbox guitar based around the fuzz pedal. So I did, and going through the process I thought what I'll do is I'll document everything, the inception of the board, the thought processes that go into selecting pedals, the construction, putting it all together, and then do a demo of the final thing. So this gives you an idea of, if you're building your own pedal board, what you might want to consider. If you're one of those people who just comes on this channel to say, oh Dave, shut up, stop talking, shut up and just play the guitar. If you don't particularly want to learn anything, then I'm going to put chapter things in the description down there. So just go straight to the play along bit. If you actually want to learn a bit about how I selected the pedals, the logic behind pedal selection and putting a board together, then stick with me and let's get into it. Right, so here we go with a bit of a disembodied hands video. Talk through the selection of pedals for the board. So we're going to be starting off with the Sonicake Fizzy Cream. This fuzz pedal which kind of inspired the whole board. And what I thought we'd talk about is my thought processes behind what I want to go onto the board, and give you some insights into what I take into consideration when I'm building a pedal board, because it's things that you might want to take into consideration yourself when you're putting your own board together. So I thought, this is a starting point. What pedals do I want on the board? So I had the fuzz box as a starting point. Well, what else do I need? Well, probably the most important pedal on the board, we need a tuner. So this is the Sub-Zero Tundra. I chased a few tuner pedals on eBay. Always missed out on the auctions at the last minute, people coming in and sniping, and I realised I could be on forever trying to get a one where I was successful. But to be honest, what I was going to pay, I could pick up one of these Sub-Zeros for pretty much what I guess what I'd be paying for a pedal on eBay anyway. So Sub-Zero, if you don't know them, they're the house brand for Gear for Music. So they are to Gear for Music what Harley Benton are to Thomann. I've had a few bits and bobs of Sub-Zero equipment, and generally they're pretty good, very much at the affordable end of the market, and so they're providing the tuner part of the board. The other effect which I knew I definitely wanted, because it's one of those things which I find quite difficult to play without, is reverb. And in this board the reverb is going to be provided by the Landlord Effects Banging Hangover. Picked that one up on an eBay auction. I think that was, if we're talking money, I think I picked that one up used. It's pretty much, it's mint condition. No problem at all with the condition of that. That was about £30 used. As I said in the earlier video, the Fizzy Cream I think was about just change out of £18, and the tune I think was about 20. So we're not talking about a big budget pedal board here. Now the power supply that I'm intending to use can power up to 5 pedals, so a bit of room for expansion. And I thought one thing I really should have on the board is a looper. Now I've already got the Moore micro looper. This is on my main board for quite a while. Nice simple looper in a micro pedal format. Another option I've got for a looper is the Donna triple looper. This is one that Donna sent me to do a review of about a year or so. Oh no, maybe 2 years ago now. I've had this one quite a while. It's never really had a place on my board. I've always, generally I used the Moore, since being replaced with a Boss RC1. But I've got a choice of 2 loopers here. So that's, but I only need one. So this, with the power supply that will supply 5 pedals, I've got capacity for some others. Just to quickly talk about power supply, there's loads of different ways you can power pedals. With mini pedal format like this, batteries aren't going to be an option. These are too small to take a battery, so they all take a 9-volt power supply. Rather than using like a dedicated power supply, with isolated outputs and all of that sort of stuff, that's Ideally, that's the way to go, but it's a bit more expensive. I'm trying to do this as, like I say, as a bit of a cheap and cheerful affair. What I did find hanging around in my cupboard was this. So this is a 1 amp or 1000 milliamp power supply with a single output on it. And what I do have is a daisy chain connector, so that can connect to the power supply, and then I've got the individual outputs to go to my individual pedals. Not perfect. These can be a little bit susceptible to noise, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. The considerations you have with the power supply is the voltage. This is a 9-volt power supply. These all take 9 volts. That's no problem. They all have the same connector polarity, standard barrel connector, center negative. You need to consider current. As like I said, this is 1000, can supply up to 1000 milliamps. These are going to be in the 200 300 milliamp range. This I think is about 3. So there's plenty capacity in that power supply to supply the pedals with the power they need. The other factor is isolation. Like I say, isolated power supplies are less susceptible to noise. Hopefully I have used a daisy chain set up at home before and it wasn't a big problem, so I think I can get away with using a daisy chain again. On the subject of noise, when I did the original demo, if you haven't seen the demo that I did of the Sonic Cake Fizzy Cream, I'll put a link in the information section below. When I cranked the fuzz control up on this, I did get a bit of noise from it, a bit of a high noise floor. But to be fair, I was using P90 pickups and on a guitar that was right in front of the amplifier. I've played around with this a wee bit more, and to be honest, the noise I don't think is going to be a problem. So I've got a power supply and a daisy chain that will power up to 5 pedals. I could look at putting a noise gate in the chain, but there's part of me is thinking, well, what other pedals do I want to consider? Let's say I'm only going to have 1 looper. It's got 2 there. I only need 1. Why would I need 2 loopers? Let's go with the more micro looper. This one is mine, so ethically I feel better about using a pedal that I bought with my own money rather than one that I was given. So we're definitely going to have the looper, we're definitely going to have the reverb, we're definitely going to have the fuzz, and we're definitely going to have the tuner. I've got capacity, I think, for a 5th pedal. So what is that 5th pedal going to be? Let's have a little bit of a think about the options. This is the bit where I give you a bit of an insight into my thought processes for planning a board. And these are the sort of things you may want to consider yourself when you're putting your own pedal board together. So this is the point of this video, really, is to show you the things that go into building a board rather than just showing you the finished article and playing it through. So thinking about what goes into a pedal board that I haven't already included in my pedal selections. We'll just go through sort of accepted wisdom of pedal board order. So generally quite early in the chain you would have the option of a compressor. I like compression pedals. I've got the Wampler Ego on my main pedal board. I've used other ones, NXR Dynacomp and others over the years. It's generally quite a useful pedal. Something else you might want to consider is a wah. A wah-wah is a useful pedal to have. Adds a whole new dimension to your sound. What else comes quite early on in the chain? Octave. An octave is a useful effect and works particularly well with fuzz, which is the engine room of this particular board. Any pedal board, you probably want to consider some sort of overdrive or distortion. Yeah, I've got fuzz, but that's a different beast to overdrive and distortion. That's a different sort of thing. Then moving past the drive and the preamp stages, we have the option for things like modulation, the modulation effects. So here we're talking chorus, phaser, flanger, and that's that sort of thing. And also the time-based effects, we've got delay. Delay is a useful pedal to have. Reverb would normally come at the end, but I've got reverb covered off. So let's think about what these options would give us and whether or not there's a space for one of these on the board. Compression, as I say, is a useful pedal, but we need to think about the use case. The primary use case here is a lowish fi, down and dirty board to use with a cigar box guitar. I think a compressor is too subtle an effect to really earn its place on the board. You've got one slot, so we need to use the pedal that gives us best value. Was an interesting one. It'll add a whole new dimension to the tone. One of the constraints I've got here is I want to use this, this mini pedal format. So I want something small. So a wah-wah doesn't seem like a logical choice to fit in with this size of pedal. However, I do know that Moore do a really nice wah pedal in a mini pedal format, and you can kind of fold out the treadle part, and so it's a mini pedal format that transforms into a more usefully sized wah. So that might be one to consider. Because I've got the fuzz, I probably want to consider octave, because an octave effect with a fuzz works really, really well. So that's definitely one to consider. Overdrive and distortion, it feels weird building a board without overdrive or distortion because I use overdrive so much. But again, it comes down to the use case. This is to be used with a cigar box guitar, and the whole point, the reason for starting to build this board was around the fuzz pedal, which I bought because I've never found an overdrive or distortion that really works with the cigar box guitar. So I don't think there's a place here for the overdrive or distortion pedal. Few options when we get into modulation: chorus, phaser, flanger. I like all of those effects. And again, this is a case where this almost seems like a shoe-in. Building a board and not including something like this, it seems like a no-brainer. I'd have some sort of modulation effect. But it comes back to how the board's going to be used. Do any of these pedals work with a cigar box guitar? This is the context I'll be using the board in. I don't think, strange as it seems to say, I'm just going to dismiss modulation completely. I just don't think they belong on a board like this. Delay is definitely one to consider because I've got the reverbs and that adds a bit of space to the sound, but I can see times where I want, for lead line, something to just add even more space to the sound and not have to keep changing reverb settings, just being able to just kick in a bit of delay. If I wanted a more sound with lots of echo on it, a delay would be useful. So I've got three things to consider here: the wah, the octave, and the delay. The wah, definitely want to consider. I do have a crybaby wah-wah for which I use with the regular guitar, but I don't use it that much. So the question is, if I got the wah pedal, would I actually use it, or would it sit on the board unused the way that my crybaby did for so long before I took it off the board to make space for other things from my main pedal board? Or would having one inspire me to do something else that I don't normally do? The octave is definitely worth considering. Octave and fuzz work really well, but I'm not convinced the sort of sound you get with an octave fuzz, it's what I need with a cigar box. It's one to consider though. The delay I'm definitely taken with the idea of. And at this point, it's probably worth talking about kind of compromises and context. I'm going through here and I'm discounting pedals, saying I don't want one of these pedals that just don't belong on the board. Pedals that I love overdrive, and I really like compression, I love chorus. And I've had various different types of these pedals on my main board over the years. But we need to think about the context it's being used in. And this is something that you need to bear in mind when you're building your own pedal board, is what are you going to be using it for? If, for example, I know a guitar player, he's very much a rock shred type of guitar player. and his rig reflects that. He has guitars with pointy headstocks and Marshall amplifiers and a pedal board with overdrive pedals and choruses and whatnot on. But he also plays in a bit of a function band and does like more jazzy type of stuff as a bit of a side project. And if he was building a board for that jazz gig or for that function gig, he wouldn't be putting in like Boss metal zones or things like that. It might be his favorite pedal because it suits him well in his home context. But in the context of playing in a function band, that metal zone would probably come off the board and be replaced with something a bit more usable in that context. So all the decisions I'm making here, and you need to make consider as well when you're building your own boards, is how are you going to use the pedals. And here I'm very much coming at it from a point of view of how does it work with the cigar box context. So choice of three, like I said, the wah-wah, octave, or the delay. The wah, I think because I want to keep the mini pedal format, I'd have to buy a wah pedal to go on the board. And I'm not convinced that having bought it, I will use it. I'm not inspired enough by wah, so I'm going to say no to that. The octave I really like. I was talking to somebody about a few different people actually about what my pedal options might be. I was talking about building this board and somebody did mention octave and fuzz. I've got another like a little multi-effects unit up in the studio that I tried it with one of the patches with an octave on it. An octave fuzz with a cigar box. It sounded nice, but it wasn't the best use of an octave. So I think if it's a toss-up between the octave and the delay, I think I'm going to scrub the octave and I'm going to include the delay pedal. It's going to give me something above and beyond what I get with the reverb and have the flexibility. I can have the spatial sound from the reverb and be able to bring in a bit more spatial sound, a bit more openness, an atmosphere just by standing on a pedal rather than tweaking knobs on reverb pedals. So that means my pedal board is going to be tuner, fuzz, delay, reverb and looper. But I don't have a delay in a mini pedal format, so I'm going to go shopping. I have shopped and I have bought this. This is the Landlord Effects Tap Room. Picked this one up new. I looked around eBay, there were a few auctions on the go, but I just had a look at some of the retailers, what I could get new, and I picked this one up. This one came from Anderson's, who I've bought stuff from before. They're a really good shop. And I picked this one up for £30, which is a bit of a bargain. I had a play of this just earlier, just with the regular 6-string guitar and with the cigar box, and for the money, that's a really, really nice pedal. I really like this. So this is going to be on the board. So let's take a look at what the final team sheet's going to be. We've got tuner, we've got fuzz, we've got the delay, we've got the reverb, and we're going to have the looper on the end of it. In that order. So we go from right to left. Conventional wisdom says fuzz should always be the first pedal in the chain. My preference is to have a tuner first in the chain because I like the cleanest, like least molested signal to go into the tuner for accuracy. It shouldn't matter because I'm pretty sure this is true bypass. So when the tuner's not engaged, the signal goes through there as if the pedal wasn't there. So effectively, the fuzz is the first thing that the signal hits. Then we go into the delay, the reverb and the looper. So that's the layout. So let's think about how we're going to be putting this onto the board. Layout is going to be basically signal path order. If you look at my main pedal board, I've done separate videos on this. It's a little bit more higgledy-piggledy because I've got so many pedals. I've got them sort of arranged on two levels like that, And the logic on my main board is the pedals that I switch most frequently are near the front, and the pedals I switch less frequently are at the back. So I've got easy access to the pedals that I need to switch. So the cabling kind of goes backwards and forwards a little bit. In this case, that's not going to happen. These are going to be in signal path order, so the guitar's going to go straight in, and the signal's just going to go straight through and then out to the amp. So I can just basically connect them together with these, some cheap and cheerful patch leads. So let's just do a dry fit, because we need to talk about layouts and sort of dimensions and what we're actually going to fix these to. What's the board actually going to look like? These mini pedals don't take up a lot of space, but I can't just put them together like this. You know, we need to have space between them, not just for the cables. So obviously we do need space for the cables. I have too many cables. I'll get rid of those cables. But by leaving space for the patch cables like this, we've got a bit of room. A foot can come in and press one pedal, and you don't need to worry about if the pedals are right up too close to each other, that you can, by pressing one pedal, you're going to accidentally activate the other. So we've got a reasonable sort of distance between them, so we're not kinking the patch cables at all, and there's enough distance for your foot not to clash between the pedals, which is good. In terms of what I'm going to fix them to, I could just put them on a plank of wood. I could buy a pedal board. I could go out and buy like a pedal train or something like that. They make, various pedal board manufacturers make different boards, right sort of size. But I don't think that's in the spirit of this exercise. This exercise is to do something a wee bit, just like I said, down and dirty, a bit budget sort of end of the market. So, you know, ponying up a lot of money for a pedal train nano or something like that, I don't think really fits in the exercise. I thought for this, going to making a video about it, it'd be fun to talk about, you know, actually constructing a physical board to put all of the pedals on. So I could just get a plank of wood and just stick them onto a plank of wood. That's one option, but that's like the cheapest, most cheerful way of doing it, but it doesn't feel quite right. I think I'd like to do something which is a bit more of a construction, and talk you through that, because I can give you an idea for how to put a board together yourself. That is actually a little bit scalable in design. So let's put these away and get the pen and paper out, and talk through that a bit. Right then, so talk about what I've got in mind for the build of the actual board, the actual construction. I'm thinking about something similar sort of approach to my my existing board, really, where we've got some rails to hold the pedals. So this is not the best draftsmanship, but you'll get the idea. So we've got two pieces of wood that the pedals are going to go onto, and they're supported on some pieces of wood at the ends, like that. So we've got the pedals can go crossways like that. The advantage of doing it like that, I think, rather than just a single plank of wood, is it saves a bit of space, and you've got the gap between the two rails, where if we need to tuck cables out the way, there is a little bit of a void. You know, obviously that's a scalable sort of thing. So if we look at that from the top view, you know, we're going to have the two rails going across, and they're fixed onto, you know, pieces of wood that go, you know, like that way. I'm going to fix those on, just, you know, glue and screws or nails or something. It's important not to just use one screw or one nail here, because you'll end up with something that could pivot. So it's important, I need to put two screws or two nails or whatever in. So what I'm thinking is, if I put screws here, like that, I've got multiple screws, so it's going to be a nice and secure design. It's not going to be able to pivot. And if I put them diagonally like that, it leaves the corner free, so I can put a little rubber feet on. So if we're looking at this, say from an end view, we've got the piece of wood there. It's got the pedals on, not to scale. Suspended on here. That's going to be fixed in with screws or nails or whatever. Then I can put little rubber feet on to stop it from sliding around, and they can be screwed in. And it's not, I don't need to worry about if I put the feet sort of here in the corners. I don't need to worry about the screws kind of bumping into each other. So that's the end view. If you looking at it from the side, just for the sake of completeness. You've got the piece of wood going across with the rails, and then the pedals. The pedals go across, and the rubber feet like that. As I say, this design is scalable, so that's a nice simple design for a mini pedal board. But if you wanted something to hold more, you could scale that up. You could make it longer, or you could even make it like 2-tier. So you could have your rail at the back, a central rail, and then a rail at the end, across like that. So you could put pedals across, multiple tiers like that, and give you a bit more capacity. If you get to a point where you're at a certain length, you may need to introduce another piece of wood here just to give it a bit of support. But this is a design that you can scale up. So I'm going to go with a basic layout like this. What I want to think about really now is in terms of dimensions, how long does that need to be, and how, the dimensions that matter are how long does that need to be, because it needs to accommodate 5 pedals and the patch cables. And in terms of this dimension, I'm really interested. What really matters is the size of the gap here. So I need something where I can put a pedal on and secure it at this side with some pedal board tape and a blob of pedal board tape here, and get there's enough surface area to be able to put some tape down. Speaking of connections, there are two ways you could fit a pedal to a board. I've kind of already made the decision that I'm just going to go down the route of pedal board tape. So, strip of Velcro down there, strip of Velcro down there, then Velcro or pedal board tape on the bottom of each pedal that'll fit the pedal in place and give you a nice secure fix. The other way you can do it, and a friend of mine recently built a board, and he did it this way, is if you have your board, and if you imagine this is where the pedal is going to go, what you can do is drill holes, or get a board with holes kind of cut in it. So you'd have a hole here underneath the pedal, like that. And because you've got that void, what you can do is just use like a cable tie, like a zip tie type of thing, and fasten that, and obviously tie the pedal to the board. That's an option. I prefer to go this way, because for all I'm going to do is build it for the mini pedal format. I think I can still build it in such a way that I've got a little bit of capacity that it can hold either 5 mini pedals or 4 mini pedals and 1 full-size pedal, to give me a bit more flexibility if I do need to rejig it and put something like a Boss pedal or something on. It's a little bit bigger than needed, and having pedal board tape gives me the option for shuffling things up or down by half an inch or an inch or so, like that. So that's I scribbled all over that, it's not that clear now, but that's the basic idea for the board itself. We've talked about the pedals that are going to go onto it. I guess what I need to do now is get the tape measure out and get looking at what I've got and weigh pieces of timber, start cutting and gluing and nailing and whatnot, and come up with an actual board to put all of these pedals on. Sometime later, and the board is assembled, hopefully looking like the design. So we've got the two horizontal rails to put the pedals on, and underneath those two supports and some rubber feet. So these are quite important because being rubber, they give it a bit of grip, so it's not going to slide around on the floor when you're using it. Only slight mistake that I made was I was drilling these holes for the screws. These two are meant to be the other way around, but I managed to line it up, so we haven't got any issues with screws clashing into each other. So it's all good. So in terms of dimensions, just to quickly grab the pedals and show you. We're going to have the layout on the board like this. So the idea is that there's a bit of a gap here, because we don't want to just. I didn't want to just have basically have a plank, but I'm going to run some pedal board tape along top and bottom, and there's enough space here and here to secure a pedal. There's enough surface area for the pedal board tape to get a grip. With pedal board tape, you don't need loads and loads of tape. It's pretty strong stuff. The pedals are quite well spaced out. Obviously, we need to have space in between for the patch cables, but the idea of making the board slightly oversized for the 5 mini pedals is I've got a bit of flexibility that if I do ever want to, say, swap out one of these pedals with something more full size like this Digitech Bad Monkey, I can just move things around a little bit, and I've got space for 4 mini pedals and a full size pedal if I want to mix and match a little bit. So that's the idea. So the first thing to do then is to put some pedal board tape on here and get the pedals fixed on. And the tape I'm using is this. It's from Bonding Solutions. This video is not sponsored by them or anything like that. Bonding Solutions, basically, I remember years and years ago talking to somebody about pedal board tape, and he said, oh yeah, I use Bonding Solutions pedal board tape. I bought some. It was really good stuff, and I've never really used anything else. It's different to Velcro. If you're familiar with Velcro, the idea of you got like a hook side and a loop side, and they latch together. This is sort of like universal in that it's got like these little, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up, little mushroomoid shape pieces of plastic, and there's not like a male side and a female side or anything like that. It will actually stick to itself. So the idea is I'm going to run 2 lines of it along here. It might seem overkill putting a strip on rather than just individual like postage stamp sizes, because it is pretty strong. A little postage stamp size thing would hold a pedal, but the idea of having a strip is if you do take one pedal off, the other pedals that are along the strip will kind of hold the piece of tape down, and you're not going to lift up both sides of the tape, because this is incredibly strong. There's enough grip between the pedal board, both sides of the pedal board tape, actually to pull the glue off if you're a bit heavy-handed with it and not careful. And the idea of having a strip is I've got the flexibility that I can move pedals along if I need to. I'm going to have to be a wee bit careful because I measured this up and I've got just enough to finish the job. But let's crack on. It's fairly straightforward. I can just eyeball all of this for the measurements, and so we're going to run a strip along here, and let's go. Easy enough to work with. We can just use scissors to cut it. So measure along here, take it to that. Just peel the back. It's self-adhesive, so we'll just peel the backing off. Line it up, so we're going to line it right on the edge of the board. Push that down. One thing you will find when you work with this, I say it's got these little pieces of plastic, as you cut it, it sheds them so that they get everywhere, so it's a bit of a clean up job after you've finished. So just push that down, Sorry for rocking the camera. And same thing on the other side. Now it says on the packet, please clean the surfaces that you intend to stick the tape to with a suitable cleaner. Well, this is clean. This is just I forgot to mention just some basic pine or just like strip wood. I just had some black paint, so I just painted it. I thought it looks a bit better, but it's clean because it's freshly constructed. So clean the surfaces you intend to stick the tape to with a suitable cleaner. Apply each side of the fastener to the surface, allowing at least 24 hours to dry before fastening. I think the main reason they say allow 24 hours is for the glue to go off. So if you put your tape on your pedal and then you try and pull it off, if the glue's not properly gone off, it'll start to lift the tape up. I'm not going to be lifting up, so I think I'm okay to start putting tape on the pedals and fitting the pedals onto the board, because I'm not going to be moving them. This pedal was already been on my board, so we've got pedal board tape on the back already, so that's ready just to stick on. These other ones I'll need to put tape on. Now the tape doesn't stick particularly well to this rubber backing. Sometimes with a pedal you can take the back plate off, flip it upside down, put it back in. There's enough room inside the pedal for that rubber not to touch the circuit board, and you can just put the pedal board tape onto the back side of the back plate. These pedals, I tried that. There's not enough space. I can't get the back plate flipped around, so I've got no choice. I'm going to have to just basically get a blade or something underneath, or even a Mark 1 thumbnail will do, and just peel this rubber backing off. I'll try and keep this together, because obviously if I want to sell this pedal at any point, I can always give somebody the option of, here's the rubber pad. If you don't want to put it on a pedal board, you can always stick that back on and just use it on the floor. But having done that on the back, I can now attach some pedal board tape. Really don't need much, just I say a postage stamp size, or even a wee bit less is enough. So something like this. So I'm being a bit clever and economical with the with quantities, because I don't have a huge amount of this and I need to put it on 4 pedals. Just cut my fingers. So the pedal will line up like that, so I just need a bit of pedal board tape under here and under here, and then we can stick the pedal on. Okay, so that's on there. I'm not going to actually fix the pedals onto the board just yet. I'll get the tape onto the other pedals, and then we can do the final assembly. Right, so that's the pedals all taped up, tape on the board. Let's do a bit of a clean up, and then we'll get the board assembled. Right, we are cleaned up. What we're going to do now is fix the pedals onto the board. Like I said, the instructions on the pedal board tape say to let it go 24 hours before you stick anything to it. From experience, I know you're okay to stick things on. It's just if you want to start moving things around before the glue's properly gone off, it can be an issue, but we're okay for what we're doing here, because we're just going to get the pedals laid out, stick them onto the board, and basically then that's it, that's job done. So let's get some patch cables. So we've got patch cables in an assortment of colours. For ease of use, if you've got the pedals on the board, obviously it's a little bit of a squeeze getting them cabled up once they're in situ. So make sure you've got the pedal order right. So we're going from the tuner to the fuzz box, to the delay, to the reverb, to the looper. And what I'm going to do is just go through and put the patch cables into the pedals before we stick them onto the board. And my first niggle with it here is these 4 pedals, the inputs and the outputs are slightly offset, so the patch cables kind of overlap each other. This one, for some reason, they've decided to put the input and the output the other way around to what is the standard on a mini pedal, so they're kind of clashing up against each other. That, I think, is going to basically dictate the spacing between the pedals on the board, because I want it to be reasonably uniform. So they're going to be laid out kind of like this. Okay, that's my starting point. So now I know where they are. Just a case of getting the pedal and pushing it down, and you hear like that clunk. That's the pedal board tape, the various pieces just kind of engaging with each other, and that is now locked on. It's much stronger than Velcro. I mean, I can lift that board up quite comfortably just with the friction that's in the pedal board tape. So we'll go through and repeat that for the other pedals. So that's it. That is the board assembled, just ready to put some power in there. Now, I mentioned about the idea of having the gap underneath. So this is quite useful. If I want, I can just sort of tuck the patch cables away under there, so they're not going to get in the way of things too much. So that's the board all assembled. What I might as well do while we're here is, this is the daisy chain for the power. So that end goes to the power supply, and these individual ones go to each pedal in turn. There we go. That's all cabled up, and again, I've got the option. I could, cable tie things together, maybe to keep it tidy if I wanted. There's options, but that's the basic board built. Let's go and get it plugged in. I've played all these pedals individually when I got them, just to check that they worked and make sure they were okay. But I'm quite looking forward to getting it set up in the studio, plugged into an amp, and we'll have a proper run through of the sounds on board. Right then, so we're in the studio. We've got the cigarbox guitar. We've got the pedal board down on the floor, aided by pedal board cam. Let's have a look and listen to what the board's got on offer. We'll start over at the right hand side with the most important pedal on any board, which is the tuner. This is the Tundra from Sub-Zero. Nice easy pedal to use. Basically, you just stand on it and you play a note on your guitar, and it tells you if it's in tune or not. My guitar's hopelessly out of tune. Now it's not hopelessly out of tune. So moving along the board, the next pedal that we come to is the Fizzy Cream Fuzz. This is kind of the pedal that started the whole build on this board. I wanted a dirt sound to use with the cigarbox guitar. Cigarbox guitar on its own, it's a bit of a weedy pickup. It's not got much particularly exciting clean tone, so we're just going straight into the amp here. Kick in a bit of fuzz. Yeah, much nicer. So yeah, lovely. I like that sound. The pedal that's pretty much an always on for me is reverb. For this demo, I'm not going to be showing you all the different options and different sounds. I basically spent a little bit of time setting each pedal up to give me a sound that I like. I'll probably do separate videos going into individual pedals in a bit more detail. But the pedal that's pretty much an always on for me is the reverb. I'm one of those guitar players, I find it quite difficult to play without some sort of reverb. I just find the sound like this, you know, it's just a bit dry, it's a bit dull and lifeless, whereas this is a plate reverb setting from the Landlord Banging Hangover. You know, it just gives you a bit more sound of actually being in a room. So that, I think, for me is going to be an always on pedal. A lot of amplifiers have reverb, but you can't always rely on it, or there might be kind of reverb that you don't like. Having a reverb pedal on the board gives you sort of like a bit of consistency. You know what to expect. Now the other pedal, the sort of sound changing pedal on the board, is the delay. We've got the Landlord Tap Room. Now, if you did watch the earlier part of the video, if you did, thank you. I kind of talked you through the thought processes of selecting this, because this was the last pedal to be added to the board, and I debated the various options, and settled on a delay because what I want is something that'll give me a little bit more depth to the sound, rather than having to keep fiddling around with settings on the reverb to give me a bit more depth. So I've got the basic sound with some reverb on it. And I've got the reverb, so I'll just turn the reverb off and let you hear the delay on its own. I've got a fairly simple sort of echo setup. So if I combine that with the reverb, so the reverb on its own, then add in the delay, you know, it just gives the sound a wee bit more depth, and I think that's going to work quite well. Say like for lead lines, if I want something that's got a bit more, you know, the idea of having like a guitar, it's playing in like a much bigger space. That delay pedal just gives you that sort of a bit more atmosphere to it. Yeah, so that's a really nice usable set of effects, and it's potentially interchangeable, as I talked through on the build part of this video. Using the pedal board tape, I can reposition pedals if I need to, so I can maybe take a pedal out, you know, replace the fuzz with an overdrive, take the delay out, replace it with something else if I wanted. So that's the board as I wanted to use it with the cigarbox guitar. Just for the hell of it, let's try it with a regular 6-string guitar and see how that sounds. Right, so back with the Fender 60s Baja Telecaster. First thing I shall do is turn my pedals off so we can try the clean sound and just make sure I'm in tune. Almost. Okay, so this is the Telecaster bridge pickup, just with no effects at all, just straight into the amp. Yeah, no reverb, it sounds totally dead. So kick in the Banging Hangover. Yeah, much nicer. Of course, what this board is all about, it's all about the fuzz pedal. So let's hear the fizzy cream. Okay, now the output on this pickup is significantly higher than the pickup on the cigarbox guitar, so I'm going to just tame the fuzz a little bit. Yeah, it sounds better. So nice usable tone there. And lastly, let's just hear that with a bit of delay. Yeah, nice space, like sound in a bit of space there with the delay, which is really, really cool. Just realised on the cigar box I didn't give a demo of the looper. I mean, the looper is a looper, you kind of know what it does, but for the sake of completeness, let's do something with the looper. Not a bad sound there at all, with the clean guitar in the background with just the reverb, and then guitar over the top with the reverb, delay and fuzz. So that's my new bargain basement pedal board. Looking at prices, I'd set myself a notional budget of around about £100. I more or less came in on budget. So we've got the looper I already had. I picked up the fuzz, I think was about £18. The tap room was 30, the banging hangover was 30, so that's 78. The tuner was 20, so that's £98 plus a few pounds for the patch cables, because I didn't have enough patch cables, so I had to buy some of those. So my personal budget, I came in just over £100. If you were building this from scratch, if you didn't already have an existing looper, I mean, the looper is comfortably the most expensive pedal on the board. But if you wanted to build a board for maybe a slightly different purpose, you could possibly get a chorus pedal. You know, if you wanted to go for something that wasn't, you didn't want a looper, you wanted another sound changing pedal, then a chorus you could probably get for less than that. I reckon you could probably build a totally usable mini pedal board along the lines of this for about £150. Your mileage may vary, depends on what pedals you want to put on. Because obviously the mini pedal format, you can get more expensive mini pedal formats from the likes of like TC Electronic, do like things like the Hall of Fame. I've seen the mini version of that, but that's a more expensive pedal. Just staying in the bargain basement end of things though, I've got some really nice usable sounds here for not a lot of money. I'll probably do a sort of back-to-back test of these. I'll do full demos of the pedals that I haven't already demoed on the channel, and I'll maybe do a back-to-back of how the Landlord Banging Hangover stacks up against something like the Boss RV6, which has the spring and the room and the plate reverb settings on it, so we can do a bit of more direct comparison. But certainly just as a totally usable, so almost like a fly rig format of board, you could build something quite usable for not a lot of money. Hopefully that's inspired you in some way about your own pedal board, what you could do with it. I hope you watched the earlier part of the video rather than just diving straight into the demos, and you watched the bit where I'm talking through the logic behind the pedal board selection and putting the board together, because that should help you with your own pedal board journey. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching. As ever, if you enjoyed it, please click like down there, and if you really enjoyed the video and you want to see other things that are posted onto the channel, then please click the subscribe button, which is also down there. That way you get notified anytime I upload any new videos onto the channel. You're welcome to leave a comment, but YouTube doesn't always notify me when people leave comments on videos. So if there's something you want to kind of draw my attention, like ask me a question about, you know, pedals, guitar gear, guitar playing, music theory, anything at all, you're better off going here, fill that form in. That way the question comes direct to me and I can get around to answering it in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.